Welcome to the show with no name for November the 10th, 2014. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch and Jim Nikosha. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Bob?
All right. Well, shall we get right into the Veterans Day stuff, or you got other stuff you want to talk about first?
It's your call. You're the producer today.
I'm the producer?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Where were you yesterday?
We're in trouble.
Where were you yesterday, Bob?
I had family obligations yesterday. Did you go to the...
Yes, I did.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I went to the town of Florida Veterans Memorial Service over there. It was standing room only.
Terrific, as it should be.
As absolutely great. Little nippy, little windy, but it was well done, well organized. They unveiled their new Korean War monument over there. They introduced some of our Korean War vets who were there. Mike Amato's brother was the guest speaker, and it was a real nice service there. But there was a lot of people.
Probably the whole town of Florida.
And I think there's some other people showed up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was real nice. Now we have to hope.
It's wonderful what they're doing over there.
Oh.
Are you impressed with the park?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely over there. It's great. We hope we get that kind of turnout tomorrow for the Amsterdam Veterans Day Parade and Memorial Service.
All right.
That starts, the parade steps off at 10:30 and the program begins precisely at 11. The 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month.
That's
1918.
That's always a nice ceremony
Right.
down there at the end of the park. Yeah.
Of course, we kind of used to call it Armistice Day.
Yes, they did.
And then we began calling it Veterans Day. And, of course, in the United Kingdom, it's Remembrance Day, which is kind of a combination of our Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
Right, and it also lasts longer than one day. They celebrate for about 2 weeks.
You know, I'm happy we're an independent nation. I really am. But I got to say, there are times when I really admire Queen Elizabeth, and this weekend was one of them. You know, they stifled a plot that was going to kidnap and behead her at the remembrance services.
Yep.
And whether they arrested 4 or 5 people, they were gonna.
Oh, I didn't read that.
Yeah, they were gonna behead her. More of these ISIS people. They stopped that, and it didn't keep her from showing up at age 88 at the remembrance services. And of course, we all remember the pictures of her in uniform in the Second World War, and walking in the rubble, cheering the Londoners up. And they didn't disappear. The royal family.
No, they stayed.
They stayed throughout the Blitz. There's very few people alive today remember World War I, I'm sure, if any. I guess there may be a few who remember it as kids. But, she was, she knew her grandfather, who was the king during the war. And, of course, all the people who would have been prime ministers. And, wow. That's 100 years ago. Amazing. But what a gal at 88, still
88 years old.
Still going out there, and hey, if they kill me, they kill me. What the heck, Queen is dead, long live the king.
Right, and that's how that would go this time too.
Yes, presumably. Yeah. Unless they made a mistake with that, didn't they just pass a new law saying that the female line would take equal precedence?
Yeah, yes, but that won't happen this time.
Well, actually, I forget. Is Anne older or younger than Charles? I thought she was older, but maybe she's younger. She might be younger.
She's one or the other.
Yeah, she's either one or the other, or either. Either one or the other.
But it can't be neither.
No, not in that family, not yet. No. All right. So I suppose we should see what's going on in Tennessee here, or whatever this is.
Okay.
This is WCSS here on the air.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to all the Marines out there. Today is the Marine Corps birthday.
Yes, it is.
Simplify to them and simplify to all our veterans.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you kind of caught my pictures on Facebook over the weekend, but
Was that before your computer crash?
Yeah, before the computer crash. My daughter, Luisa's, hi Luisa, boyfriend Diego finished his Marine service with the Marine Ball Saturday night. And I think that was the 6th Marine Ball they went to together.
I saw
something
that
like
picture.
That.
Handsome guy.
He is. He is a nice boy, too.
Yeah.
He's a nice boy. And he's done 6 years of active reserve, and his time is up. And so now he moves into the inactive reserve, which means, well, the president can call him up and say, "Hey, I need you," but they're,
farther down the
after
list.
they've called up all the other reserves.
Right.
So we're very proud of him. He's served his country. He's a proud Marine. Looks great in the
Uniform.
Marine blues. I'll tell you that of all the services, they've got the best uniform. It's really snappy. It's really snappy. When they put their formals on, they're, what do they call it? The Class A's, something like that. Yeah.
They look good.
So he retires as a corporal. Anyway, we're proud of him. He, did in the summers he did a little time overseas. Fortunately, not in the combat zone. And I got to tell you, we have our pride, but we are also sighing with relief.
He doesn't want to make it a career.
No, he's an engineer by.
Oh, okay.
by-
All right. That's
so he's busy fixing the meatball machines even as we speak. Yeah, he works for a company that makes meatballs.
Yeah?
Among other things.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got the whole place completely reorganized. Yeah. Smart kids, both of them, both engineers. Anyway, I had a nice, really nice event Friday down at Hudson Valley Community College.
I watched it on YouTube.
Did you?
I watched most of it.
You dress up. You clean up good.
Oh yeah, you guys never see me with my suit and tie. Yeah.
Are you saying that like suit and tie, like that's the only one you have, or you have a number?
Well, I have several ties. So I think that is I wear suits so rarely now. I think that is the only one that fits me at the moment.
You did a good job at that show, but I was kind of disappointed that you didn't have more personal stuff in that come out of your book in there. Different people.
Well, what I tried to do with this audience is concentrate on the 105th Regiment because I'm in Troy, and I'm at Hudson Valley Community College, and the guys that were mentioned in the article in my speech, a lot of them were from Troy, Cohoes, Albany, Schenectady, and I thought
that was a student presentation, wasn't it?
Well, it was open to the public, so there were people from.
A lot of public there? Mm-hmm. Were there a lot of public there?
It was a nice-sized crowd, beautiful auditorium, the media center. And actually, I did not know this at the time, but they were broadcasting it live.
Too? Wow.
Well, over the internet.
Maybe it's a good thing you didn't know.
It is a good thing I didn't know. I did mention a lot of, Chris Freer's family.
Yeah.
And she was a classmate of mine at Bishop Scully, and I thought, as I'm going along, I'm thinking, boy, she's going to be really happy about this. And then I get this question from the audience. Now, who are those people? And I said, those Melrose Freer and Nell Palekas, their wedding, set up the rest of the talk. She said, well, who are they? I said, they're nobody. And as soon as I said it, I'm thinking, well, now she won't speak to me for 40 years. But it turned out she did speak to me. After that, and she was very pleased with it, and she thought that was pretty funny. But that was my point. The point was that everybody I talked about was an ordinary person. These are not trained professional soldiers. These are people who are working making rugs one day, and the next day they're in a jungle someplace.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah. So, this is WCSS. You're on the air.
Good morning. I just wanted to share with you that we were over to the Florida festivities there for the veterans. My husband's originally from Florida, and we live in Mayfield now, but it was a beautiful ceremony. And one of the things that Mr. Amato, or whatever rank he is, he had a full chest of ribbons on, I see. But he stated the different years of patriotism in our area and so forth. And as it is right now, I mean, we just don't seem to have the patriotism we had like back in World War I and Korean War and everything. My husband was in the Korean War.
That would be Dutch Hall, would it?
That would be.
That's what I thought. I saw Dutch.
And
over there.
he's got a stone that he bought over there and everything. And it was so surprising. I had my dad was in the Seabees. Now he did live out in Bremen's Corners, going towards Esperance there. And I have a hat that I always wear with the Seabees onto it. And I was so happy. I had two guys come up to me. The one was in Vietnam era in the Seabees, and the other one was he'd been an Iraqi and so forth and so on. And it was so nice they complimented me on wearing my dad's hat and everything, and I thought that was so nice. And I thought that guy gave a nice speech, but we damn near froze to death. But other than that, it was a beautiful ceremony.
Yeah, it was really nice. Joe and Glee.
That's all I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Say hey to Dutch for me.
I will. Bye-bye.
You know everybody, Gavin.
I know a lot of people, not as many as you.
You know him through the Boy Scouts?
Yes. And through his phone calls to the show with no name.
I thought so. I thought he'd
called in a couple times.
Called in, yeah. Wow.
But you're right, though. That the importance of the book was that it was the ordinary man did extraordinary things.
That's it. That says it all. So what stories? Let me interrupt you before you answer my question. You'd think that doing this show every week the way we do, I'd have a better understanding of time. As I was preparing this thing, I carefully marked places in the book. Actually, I've got the book right here. Those of you watching on video, a year from now when I finally got it up, where do we find such men? So I marked all these little passages, and I just kind of wanted to follow the National Guard guys from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel! That time ran out. I'm watching the clock, and it's worse than the radio because everybody's got to go back to class after 50 minutes. So, Jim Labatt, who introduced me and set this up, you're going to do 40 minutes, and then we'll take questions for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 40 minutes come, and he's practically standing up waving at me, and I know I got like another minute that I'm going to talk. So, it just whipped right by. I didn't get half done what I intended to, and that was 50 minutes is a fair period of time.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So there are a lot of stories that went untold, unfortunately. But, there's plenty of time. You can read the book, if you want to. It's available at the Old Peddler's Wagon, the Book Hound, and of course on Amazon.
I had one of my grandchildren for the weekend, and I was asking him different things about his college life. That do you talk much politics there? Do you talk about the war? Do you talk? He says no, not very much. He says not very much. This is and I'm looking through my bookshelf for your book because I want him to take it back so he could read it, and I can't find it. And my wife says, well, she says, I think you let your son take it. I said, okay, that's it. So
I'll never see it again.
No, I
got more copies, Jim. You can have as many
it.
as you want.
Because I thought it was important for the kids in school to read this stuff that they don't know about, they don't talk about.
One of the things that popped out during the guest speaker was that he gave the statistics as a percentage of the number of people in the country who are actually in service. And it went from World War II of 4% to less than half of 1% today are actually in the service. And he says, why is that?
Well,
Why do we have,
in the service now or who have served?
who have served since Vietnam?
Yeah.
It was microscopic compared to
Yeah.
the number that we had in World War II. And he
Well,
talked about
part of that is because of the population increase in such a great degree, so the percentage has got to go down.
populations
Well,
is higher. and-
I think the biggest thing is the requirements.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we've had a all-volunteer army since 1973, and we're filling the quotas, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of it they're doing by pulling reserves in and out, but that's just technique. That's they could have more people if they chose to do that in the full-time army, but they don't want to do that. It's cheaper to move the reserves in and out. But you know, whatever you may think of that's apparently the wave of the future. But you know, the requirements of World War II, fighting a two-front war with the limited technology of the day. You know, we had what, 14 million men in uniform? That's not counting the women? Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Yeah, that's-
You know, that's holy mackerel.
That's tremendous.
At a time when the entire population of the country was 130 million. You know, about a third of what it is now.
Yeah.
That's another thing it's impossible to fathom, that the country is 3 times the size it
Right.
was in World War II population-wise. Wow.
You know, and then how many were actually also involved in war-related employment?
Well, that was everybody else.
Yeah, that's everybody else in the
That was
country.
everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I mean, I mean, I looked at the statistics for Amsterdam, and it's phenomenal. I mean, over 4,000 served. When you think about it, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody of the age group that would have gone, that could have gone, who were healthy enough to do it. That was it. The only people who didn't go were the ones ultimately were the ones who
And that was at
couldn't
the
pass
time.
the physical.
At the time, that was probably about 10% of the population.
Well, yes. I mean, the population was 34,000 in 1940. 4,000
4,000
men served. So let's assume you cut the population in half, men and women, and say it was 17,000 men in Amsterdam. 4,000 served of all
25
ages.
25%.
That's 17,000 of all ages.
All ages, yeah.
That's from 0 to 99. You know.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Everybody went. It's amazing anything got done on the home front. You know, you look at some of the issues of the day. Believe it or not, the Common Council used to argue about things back even during World War II.
Get out. Yeah.
One of the big deals was Valmer's bus company. How did that work? They also picked up the garbage. Okay, they not only had the contract for the buses, they also picked up the garbage. Probably twice a week, and they carried the cans to your back door and tipped their hats. You know, but there was a real problem picking up the garbage because they didn't have the men to do it. Yeah. Well, who did? Nobody. The answer was nobody. There was
no men to do anything.
There was no men around to do anything. Wow. Now, you're the only one among us that's old enough to remember the war as a kid.
Slightly, you know, one of my brothers was in during the war, but he never talked about it too much. He was on a ship, but it ended up as to be at a hospital ship, so he didn't see any action.
No, you just saw the worst of it.
Yeah. And I had a brother-in-law that was in the Air Force in France, Army Air Force in France, on the ground.
There was no separate Air Force back then. It was just,
And he didn't talk about the service very much. Only about when he got in trouble.
Here's a guy in a hospital ship from Cohoes. This is another one of those quotes I didn't get to read. This is the Battle of Saipan, and he's on a hospital ship, and they're bringing all the casualties That's what those hospital ships did. You know, they take the casualties offshore, and they were the MASH units of the day, I guess, at least in the Pacific, before they had MASH units. Pharmacist mate first class Calvin Robitel of Cohoes. He cares for many of the wounded of the 105th Infantry and tells of the grim reality of the battle for Saipan. This is him speaking. They might have been men from my own hometown, but I didn't have time to ask. They were a spunky lot. They wanted to get back on shore. Most of all, they wanted to get some of those Jap soldiers who had armed the kids, knowing that we protect civilians. Well, I guess that the people around here know now that Saipan was a tough fight. There's got to be battles like that to win the war. You can all be proud that our fellows were picked to fight on Saipan. It does something to the folks at home to have to face casualties like that. But don't forget that it does something to us, too. I like that. Don't forget it does something to us, too. Yeah. It's not just the folks at home that suffer the casualties. Sure. These guys are right up front. As I said at the end of my talk, I don't know how the hell you go back to an ordinary life after seeing this stuff.
Well, now they've got a word for it, the post-trust syndrome.
PSTSD, yeah.
They called it something else back then, but it was
shell shock.
It was a lot of psychoneurotic and and I got somewhere. I got the statistics. This is Okinawa. All right, 82-day battle. Okinawa. It was just brutal. They had to fight for every inch of land, and they had to kill every last Japanese soldier to win the island. American ground casualties in the 82 battle, which ends in mid-June, include 7,613 killed and missing, and 31,807 wounded in action.
How many?
31,807 wounded in action. Neuropsychiatric patients, shell shock, etc., is what I wrote, so we're in agreement here, are an incredible 26,221. In other words, almost as many as were wounded were neuropsychiatric patients. That's how brutal this was mentally and emotionally, this battle. And they're like on the front lines for the whole time, under constant fire, watching people get killed on their left and their right. God. Yeah, this is when I included the quote from With the Old Breed by E.B. Sledge, who was a Marine fighting in Okinawa alongside the 27th Division. This is not my writing. This is Sledge writing. He was a private in the Marines, serving on the front lines. The stench of death was overpowering. The only way I could bear the monstrous horror of it all was to look upward, away from the earthly reality surrounding us, watch the leaden gray clouds go scudding over, and repeat over and over to myself that the situation was unreal, just a nightmare, that I would soon awake and find myself somewhere else. But the ever-present smell of death saturated my nostrils. It was there with every breath I took. I existed from moment to moment, sometimes thinking death would have been preferable. We were in the depths of the abyss, the ultimate horror of war. During the fighting around the Umbroglio pocket of Peleliu, I had been depressed by the wastage of human lives. But in the mud and driving rain before Shuri, we were surrounded by maggots and decay. Men struggled and fought and bled in an environment so degrading that I believed we had been flung into hell's own cesspool. I imagined Marine dead had risen and were moving silently about the area. I suppose these were nightmares, and I must have been more asleep than awake, or just dumbfounded by fatigue. Possibly they were hallucinations, but they were strange and horrible. The pattern was always the same. The dead got up slowly out of their waterlogged craters or off the mud, and with stooped shoulders and dragging feet wandered around aimlessly, their lips moving as though trying to tell me something. I struggled to hear what they were saying. They seemed agonized by pain and despair. I felt they were asking me for help. The most horrible thing was that I felt unable to aid them. At that point, I invariably became wide awake and felt sick and half crazed by the horror of my dream. I would gaze out intently to see if the silent figures were still there, but saw nothing. When a flare lit up, all was stillness and desolation, each corpse in its usual place. Whew. Then he finishes up with a quote from a World War I poem. You smug-faced crowds with kindling eye who cheer when soldier lads march by, sneak home and pray you'll never know the hell where youth and laughter go. That's amazing.
You're not there, you don't know.
Yep. Wow. He tells another story in his book. They're out at night, and one of these guys goes nuts and just starts screaming. And ultimately, they had to kill him. They had to kill their own man. They tried everything to get him to shut up because he was giving away their position.
Yeah.
And once the Japanese know where you are, they're just going to start lobbing mortars at you.
Yep.
And he says it so matter-of-factly. He tells that story. Wow.
Yeah. War is hell.
Yeah. Oh. Well, anyway, this is WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, so we're devoting most of our 2 hours, if not all of it, to remembering our veterans. Gavin, you got some stuff.
Yeah, we talked before on the show about United PX, which was published for and by the guys up on Dutch Hill during World War II. Dutch Hill is Old Rockton, and
Bigelow Sanford Soccer Club.
Yep.
Bigelow Sanford Uniteds.
And in these monthly publications, there were all sorts of things. It was the letters the guys wrote to each other, the guys who wrote back home, and the PX would send out every month a list of the addresses that they had, so the boys could all stay in touch. And I got a little poem here that was written by the editor of the PX regarding where all our boys were during World War II, and it's called Addresses. When all you were civilians, you lived, of course, at home, in a house of wood or brick, or perhaps one built of stone. The house was on the street or road, maybe near a store. Unless it was a farm, it had a number on the door. It was all very simple, and where you were we knew, at 25 Elias or on Brookside Avenue. But not there in their service. We wonder where you're at, from the intricate description of where you hang your hat. I have some names in front of me. I think there's 53. It's United PX mailing list, just between you and me. There's numbers here and numbers there and numbers everywhere. To use them all and keep them straight will surely turn my hair. First there's ranks and ratings, Army, Navy, Marine. Someday if I live long enough, I'll know what they all mean. From private to lieutenant, from AS to CPO, there's not a single Mr. Smith, the kind I used to know. Soldiers have serial numbers, always in the millions. The only things much higher are bond drives in the billions. I've pondered many a weary hour, from dawn till setting sun. Wonder where the soldier is, serial number is 1. The Navy men have ratings too, not before their names but aft. To see me try to dope them out sure made a gob quick laugh. They're third class this and first class that. They're always something class. Perhaps that's why in every port a gob has got a lass. The names of ships are not too bad. They start with USS. Tuscaloosa and Donable are very good, I guess. The Murphy and the Nap's okay, but where they But what about the Mingo? Every time a Jap gets smoked, Edwin hollers bingo. Let's mix you up together once, Army and Maritime. It'll take it somewhere easier for me to find a good old rhyme. You're numbered by battalions, by regiments and groups, by sweepers, tugs, and trawlers, by PBYs and sloops. Your lives seem full of numbers, they've got me all a tither, and then you have initials all the way from A to Z. There's PFC and QMS and AAFGS. It all seems quite confusing, but they're part of your address. We read about the brain trust in Washington, D.C., but don't blame them all for Al McKnight, USSLST. But Furbarker's got the winner, AAFSAT. If Fritz were a professor, I'd say he has a new degree. Whitney's back at Grand Avenue. It sounds quite hooper-duper. Jack Terry's on the Murphy, the Tuscaloosa's House Cooper. Murdoch Squadron's number is 1157. Apple Knocker Campbell's in Hawaii's a sailor's heaven. Pierce Tolson's serial number will look upon a fright. Lou Sykes has every number twice, except a figure 8. Peanuts, FA Battery C, will cause severe destruction. Woody's Company 633 is meant for reconstruction. Walt Campbell has an address, but you'll never find him there. For when he's out to sea, he's way up in the air. Lyndon Johnston's out in Africa, the MP's 101st. His serial number 3 foot long, and the desert makes him thirst. Sailor Tony Nimchek is listed F first class. Kanowski's down in Florida, Department Rep and ass. When J. Terry went to Belfast, he raised a lusty cheer. Bruno's up in Iceland with the Seabees drinking beer. Brock's College is in Oregon. No doubt he thinks he's it. The QMD through Jimmy Dines gives clothes that never fit. But Jimmy is distinctive. He's been in many stations. Oh, you get lost, you screw things up. Try again. Mike Nimchek's east at Portland, Maine. We long for him to sing. Methinks G. Terry dances. He's a buck on a wing. Geddes is in Arcadia. He's been in many stations. Tony Pertuch, address, just 11 abbreviations. Chinnick Joe will never tire on the good USS Nap. And Gottabed's address is queer. It hops all over the map. Ernie Stahl, F first class, section L-1. Don Campbell, CRTC, rode a horse but cannot run. H. Tolson is in Maryland, at school in the Hospital Corps. The school that Stuart McKnight attends is 87-4. Al Topping, able seaman, sir, Sampson's NST. Fort McClellan, Alabama, is private suite's address. Bill Peterson and Milton Yates, we're told, are in the Navy. Trying to find out where they are so far has us all going crazy. Eckelman, Arnie, one of the twins, tells time-by-number bells. His latest home, we are informed, is on the good ship Wells. In the Yukon, Bill Slagus, he always between the sticks. No serial number, brothers, Bill, just box 3306. Bill's not a 49er, just works on the Great Alaskan, the Alaskan Road Highway. He changed his Irish boss's name from Campbell to McClellan. Or Smith is over in Blighty, possibly living in Tooting. Walter Whitman, Smith's neighbor, teaches Germany fancy shooting. Paul Sykes has quite the car. We hear he started in aerial gunning. Dickie Gibes in the AAA, does he box or is he running? And then there are the Hardig boys, Wilson, Art, and Carl. We gotta watch them very close, or we'll get them all a snarl. Johnny Hamm's address is the worst I've ever come to see. Somewhere in the Pacific is Bill Graham, our first Marine. Lynn's McKnight is Attu, Tippy Gilpin's AAA. Karsh Thompson out in Kelser Field, doing KP almost every day. Bill Hersey in Rhode Island, Hank Weedman in Arkansas, Jim McGaffin always laughing, and the clink, it's the Army law. Corporal David Thompson, Company A and engineer, he used to fish for perch and trout and hunt the bear and deer. Dick Hayden, another leatherneck, he's our newest member. I wonder where he hangs his hat. I really don't remember. Initial numbers, units, they keep me rather busy. To try to memorize them all would surely make me dizzy. You guys out there have lots of grief, so don't forget this tale of woe. And now I'll turn you over to my good friend APO. A lot of the boys from Dutch Hill mentioned in
I guess so. Is there anyone who was not mentioned? I don't
Yeah, there was a couple times.
A couple of Murdochs missing, actually.
Yeah, I did a little stretching in there a couple of times in there.
They had a whole neighborhood there.
Yeah. You know, and that's how they went.
And that poem was written by the talented editor of the United's PX newsletter, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yes. His name was?
Guy Murdoch.
Yeah. Proper name?
Gavin Todd Murdoch.
There you go. There you go. That's funny. Is that he's got the same name as you? How did that happen?
I was going to say, I thought maybe you wrote it.
No. I don't have that kind of talent.
No,
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, Pierce Tolson Jr. was in town. I don't know whether it was for his or his wife's class reunion, I forget. And they met me down at the library because they wanted me to autograph some books for them. And I had never...
Books that you'd written, or just books?
Well, where do we find such men?
Okay.
Because... his father is featured in the book. He was quite the hero, and of course you mentioned him there as well. But it reminded me of a really funny exchange in one of the newsletters. John Campbell, who was on the field with Pierce Tolson, was probably twice his size. Because Pierce Tolson was probably the shortest guy to play soccer. John becomes an officer. He's a second lieutenant. I think he may have finished as a first lieutenant. I forget. And Tolson, of course, is just a guy up in the ranks.
Just a gob.
He was a gunner on a B-26 or something. Anyway.
Because he fit.
Because he fit. Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. They had height limits for the airmen for good reason. I think the height limit for a Mercury astronaut was 5'7", believe it or not, something like that. All those guys were short. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I outgrew the astronauts somewhere 8th or 9th grade.
I went down to the Albany Airport, the Schenectady Airport, when they had the military planes come in. And I got to go through a couple of the airplanes, and to go from the front to the back, you had to walk sideways.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big guy. I just made it through. I said, I don't know how some of these kids, well, they had to be kids to get through from the front to the tail to the
you ever been on a World War II era submarine?
No.
Oh my God! The captain's quarters are half the size of the bathroom here.
Yeah.
And you have the big room. And that's the big room.
That's the big room.
That was the big room. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you literally had to go sideways, and you could only go single file, and there was places where you could turn around because there was machines in the middle, and you keep to the right. You'd have to go around in a loop to get back back to where you were going.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my story. In one of these letter exchanges, Pierce is in one place, Campbell is in another, and Campbell's nickname was Soup. And Tolson says, "Hey, Soup," parenthesis, "oh, excuse me, sir." It was kind of funny because, in the service, he has to recognize the rank of the guy he was otherwise pounding into the turf in practice. And the soccer club story is fantastic, and I am so glad that you preserved those issues, because it tells a million great stories. You can watch the whole history of World War II just reading that.
And I think even more so, though, it talks about the fabric of the city in America at the time.
Yeah.
That
I'd put all those together. You know, I did copy I did copy them all. I could put them all together in book form. I should probably do that. Put them all together. Be one big book.
One big book.
Yeah. And it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. Those you mentioned Bruno Petruccione in there, being in Iceland. So I can tell from that this is fairly early in the war, and the fact that they're only 53 because their mailing list ended up being 100 and something.
Yeah.
Bruno Petruccione spends time in Iceland, a lot of time in Iceland, like a couple of years. Then he goes to England. Then he goes to France after D-Day, and he's there. And then, you know, you keep reading these things, and all of a sudden he's in the freaking Philippines. Philippines and then Okinawa. He ends up in Okinawa. As the war is ending, he's writing this hilarious letter about keeping an eye on this barge that's bringing all the beer in, and he's waiting for the shore patrol to turn their backs. So one of these cases accidentally breaks open. You know. But it's so matter of fact. You know, it's like all I'm doing is all I've been doing in this war is just horsing around, which is baloney.
Yeah. But it's amazing how many guys spent so much time in the States and other guys spent all their time afield. It's just like, how did that happen?
Circumstance. It's as simple as that. Now you take like the Texas division. You know, we had the New York National Guard guys were the 27th division, and I think Texas was like the 24th or something like that. The Texas division is involved in the invasion of North Africa, which is, really the first sustained campaign the Americans were in the war, which is not until like September of 42 before they get moving, something like that. They go from there to the invasion of Sicily, to the invasion of Italy, and they're fighting their way up the Italian peninsula. Then they get sent to Anzio. You know, they hop ahead to Anzio, and they're stuck there. I think that's the group Mario Villa was with ultimately. So they're basically on the front lines for like 2 years before Rome falls. Then they're involved in the invasion of southern France, and they fight their way up through France, and they end up fighting the Germans in northern France before the war is over. So it was like they never stopped. They never stop. Whereas guys, I was going to say poor Don Campbell. That's the way he looked at it. But lucky Don Campbell, as we would look at it, he gets he writes frequently to this newsletter, almost every issue, and they're always getting ready to ship out. And then at the last minute, they're instead of going to France, they go to Pittsburgh or some crazy thing like that, and it just goes on. So he doesn't actually, even though he's been in the Army for like 3 years, he doesn't actually get to the fighting zone until the war is about a month shy of ending. But
you never know.
He lived to tell. Which is good. Amazingly, nobody in the soccer club was killed in the war. I mean, you had Walt Wiedemann, who was a prisoner of war for a long time, and other guys, a lot of guys who saw a lot of action. Arnie Eckelman had 13 battle stars by the time he was graduated.
Yep. Where do you find such men? Right here.
Yeah, right here. Every hometown. Every hometown.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, I said in my talk Friday, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, or whether this city just created heroes by the bushel basketful accidentally. I mean, part of it's where you end up going. But the other thing is, I got this 376-page book, and I don't touch 5% of the stories of World War II that came out of Amsterdam. And I don't know, I may know another 5% or have some idea of another 5%. But, wow. I mean, I didn't... I didn't even get into the Bronze Stars for bravery because there were so many Silver Stars from
Yeah.
these guys, Silver Star stories to tell, that, I never did tell Villa's story. Of course, he doesn't want me to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them don't want you to talk about it.
Anzio, they never stopped. What's his name? Ernie Pyle's account of Anzio is terrific, as is all his World War II writing. But he talks about going to a hotel and being in a bedroom on the far side of the hotel, as far away from the Germans as you can possibly get, and the bomb lands on his bed. It's, jeez, or a shell. Yeah. Is that a call? No, I guess it's not a call. Oh, well. I have, as long as we're doing Kaiser's Corner here, I've, in honor of our United Kingdom allies, because this, they're celebrating Remembrance Day, probably the most famous poem to come out of maybe not the most famous. Flanders Field's pretty famous. This one is by Lawrence Binion, and it's always brought out on Remembrance Day. Lawrence Binion, 1869-1943, published in the Times newspaper, 21st of September, 1914. We're only a month into the war when this poem is written, and it really speaks for everything that followed it. With proud thanksgiving, this is called For the Fallen. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn, the drums thrill, death august and royal sings sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known, as the stars are known to the night. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in times of our darkness, to the end, they remain. Lawrence Binion. Yeah. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Okay, what have I got here? A note. Well, this is critical. Let's see. There's a 4th Ward meeting tonight at 7 o'clock at City Hall, hosted by Diane Hotzenbuehler and 7th District Legislator Barbara Wheeler, open to the public. Okay. Well, as long as, look at all this stuff.
Wow.
Well, you guys like to eat?
Yeah.
Well,
There's
a couple times a day.
No, there's nothing like, let me tell you. When I ran for family court judge 20 years ago, I had the whole county to wander. And I ate well. You think with all that campaigning you lose weight. I gained weight during that election because we were eating out every weekend anyway, and sometimes during the week.
The big notice this week is that Tony Sentai is taking over La Cucina.
That's right. That's official. I spoke with Tony, and he's posted it on the board. We knew that last week, but didn't know whether it was for public consumption yet.
Yep, December 1st, I believe.
December 1st, Tony will be taking over La Cucina.
Good for you, Tony.
Will they have 24 flavors of ice cream
I
there?
think not. I
Probably
believe the ice cream machine is being left behind.
Oh.
Now, can you imagine Tony's great pizza being made in a brick oven?
On those brick ovens, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He
I
says,
made one
he's gonna keep the La Cucina menu pretty much the way it is, but, he's gonna make his pizza.
I made a pizza yesterday in my brick oven, my
Did
clay
you?
oven. Yep.
Yes, and?
Yep. It was delicious. And my grandson was there. I had him make the dough for me.
Oh,
And the bread came out better than mine.
wow.
Must have been those college hands in the flour.
Well, let's see. What do we got coming up? We got a spaghetti dinner and silent auction, Tribes Hill Presbyterian Church, 360 Mohawk Drive, this Friday, November 14th, 5 to 7.
If it's a silent auction, how do you hear what the bid is?
Oh, well, that's the whole key to it.
Not knowing?
Yeah, well, did you ever see Birth of a Nation? All right.
Yeah,
You couldn't hear what they were saying, but
yeah.
it's a great movie. Adults $7, age 5 to 10, $5. Children under 5, free.
Senior citizen discounts?
Nope, we're out of luck, guys.
Oh, gee.
All right.
All right, another spaghetti dinner. If you didn't have enough spaghetti in the Tribes Hill, you can go to the Town of Florida Town Hall. This is the benefit to Town of Florida Snowmobile Club. Let's see, Saturday, November 15th. So you go
that's
Friday to the
Friday,
Presbyterians
Saturday,
and
and
Saturday to the snowmobilers. And that one is 4 to 8 at the Town of Florida Town Hall. Where they should just turn that into a restaurant because they have more
Yes,
food
they
served
do.
there than anywhere
Yeah.
else in the county, I think. Ham and fritter supper, St. John's Fries Bush Lutheran Church. Not to be confused with the Fries Bush Methodist Church. They had the greatest.
Did they say that on that?
No.
on that ad?
I know I'm ad-libbing that part. Yeah, I ate at this place among many others, but the best meal I had 20 years ago was the ham dinner at the Fries Bush Methodist Church. I'm not saying Lutherans can't cook, but they can. Their meals are wonderful. But the Fries Bush ham dinner, out of this world, melt in your mouth. Owen Foos's mother served me. She was great. Yeah. Now, where's Fries Bush? Oh, it's south of Fort Plain somewhere. 774 State Highway 163, 4.5 miles south of Fort Plain. Handicapped accessible. So this is a ham and fritter supper, Thursday, November 20th. What's that? Another week? Yeah. That's that.
We're in the.
All right. So
that's
you
another
should
10
have
days.
you should have the spaghetti settled by then, right?
I got a problem with that though.
What's that?
Spaghetti Friday and Saturday. I only eat spaghetti twice a week, and it's not.
It's Thursday and Sunday, right?
It's yes.
They're consecutive
Wednesday or
days.
Thursday or Sunday, and Sunday. Well, I shouldn't say that. Elaine cut me out Sunday. I didn't have no spaghetti Sunday.
No spaghettis?
No, my grandson was there, so she had to make a mistake. But they were good. But
It's my mother said that it was a tradition in her Italian family that you made the sauce on Thursday and Sunday.
Thursday and Sunday.
Yeah. So Thursday for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday for Sunday,
Well-
Monday, Tuesday. So I guess I had sauce every day.
But-
They had there's another one. What is this?
Oh, you missed one. Oh boy. There we go. I'm going to starve.
There's no food at this one. We'll
right,
we'll
yeah.
hold that one for next time. Okay. What do we got?
You got a call.
You got a call? Well, by the way, this is WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York. We're about to enter the second hour of the show with no name. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Hi, I had to call back to ask you if anybody had said anything about that drone that was flying around there, or knew who it belonged to.
No, but
flying around at the thing.
No, I don't know who it was, but they should have just shot that sucker down. That was so disrespectful.
In this area?
That somebody was doing that at Veterans Day service in the town of Florida. They had one of those flying saucer type drones, and they kept buzzing the place with it, and it was really...
I never saw anything like that before.
Nah. Or you might find the guy
I was
down by
just
the
curious.
river. No, it was terrible.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, maybe it wasn't from this earth.
it was. There's a guy there controlling it.
Really?
Oh, you could see the
Yeah.
guy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I would have gone over and just smacked them.
was
Shoot it down?
Really, really disrespectful.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Unless he was taking a picture
No.
and, oh, all right.
Even so, you don't do it without permission.
Well, no,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Who's speaking at our Veterans Day service tomorrow? Do you know?
I know the mayor is.
Well, the mayor always has a few.
I don't know who the guest speaker is. I don't remember off the top of my head who that is. But that begins, the service begins right at 11 o'clock, which is
Right.
preceded by the
Yeah.
parade at 10:30. So we'd like to see as many people there as we're at the Halloween parade.
And it's always a good parade, nevertheless.
This may be the first one that I miss in 100 years down at the park.
They got a flyover too.
I
Is
think-
that right?
Yeah, they got a World War II trainer. It's not a jet that they got to do a flyover.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
You know, we were. I guess it was you talking about how narrow those planes were. I think there's a maybe a piece in the book. If not, I just stole it from Ernie Pyle anyway. About the B-29s, and the B-29s would fly from Saipan to Tokyo and back, or to Japan and back, and it was like, 7-hour flight. Or 14-hour flight. It may have been a 14-hour flight, 7 up and 7 back. Because it was 1,100 miles from Saipan to Tokyo. And that was as close as they got until they took Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
So they're within range of the B-29s. Well, the B-29s had like to get from the front to the back, you actually went through the roof. They had a tunnel at the top of the plane, and you would go up in there, and you'd crawl through. You'd have to literally crawl through it to get to the back of the plane. And the guys would take naps up there. And if there was a guy taking a nap, you couldn't crawl through.
And after being in one of those planes, you know why those guys wore those bombardier jackets. They were cold.
because
there was nothing to them.
they were
It
cold,
was literally a tin can,
Right.
and you can see the cables that were running from the control panel to the wings and
Oh,
to the
yeah,
tail. I mean,
yeah.
everything's right there. There's no convenience at all in these things.
Nothing hidden.
No.
No, everything is open, and the framework. That's why.
That's what it was a frame.
Yeah, the frame of the superstructure of the airplane was so narrow to hold everything together that you had, 12, 13 inches to go through to get to the back.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I had when I was taking a tour of the plane, there was a guy in front of me going through. He couldn't get through. He had to turn around. We all had to get out.
Back
so
up.
we all had to get out so he could get off and we could go through because he was too big. It was funny.
They were not built for convenience. They were
No.
built for functionality.
And yes. And things were constantly going wrong. If they got hit, one of these wires gets cut. A, you lose your life support, or B, you can't open the
control.
bomb bay door. So somebody gets down there on their hands and knees with a crank, and Pierce Tolson's story is one of them. There was a fire in the plane. They got hit. There was a fire, and the fire was approaching the ordnance. And and then the fire extinguisher. Somebody tosses him a fire extinguisher. It doesn't work. So he put it out with his hands. Put it out with his hands,
Wow.
and then managed to get the bomb bay door open and shoved the rest of what was burning out the door. Out the bomb bay. Which if you trip, you're going down with it. Jeepers.
Yeah. That's
And there's a million stories like that. Just another day.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my job. What are they giving me a medal for? What else could I do?
I was trying to stay alive.
We're no heroes. We're no heroes. What is all this hero stuff? That's not us.
Yeah, we're trying to
That's
stay
some other
alive.
guy.
That's it. We're staying alive, and
Yeah.
you get a medal for it.
Hell is for heroes.
They deserved them, but
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's see. Shall we tell some stories? I don't know. What's a good story for my book? Johnny Campbell. Wow. 19, yeah.
You know, the PX that we were talking about earlier that got published was, initially for the elder members of the soccer club up there. And they used to play over on what is today referred to as Veterans Field, but it was Sanford Field back then. And they did another poem to the team, and it's called "The Field Talks," which is the soccer pitch up there on Locust Avenue. Most folks would never notice me, as along my way they pass, except as a piece of real estate, or a field, or a patch of grass. It's not like a field that is planted with the hope of wheat. My purpose is far from different, to bring some pleasure and health. The turf on my surface is perfect. Its color is emerald green. My lines when I'm ready for action are sharp as a searchlight's beam. I'm a soccer field, please remember, with goalpost nets at both ends. The line across my middle is where the game starts and gives half to foe and to friends. The sidelines are not important. They are boundary lines, pretty much. There's always a linesman thinks he's the boss and decides when the ball's out of touch. Beware of the 18-yard line from your goal. Inside it, don't foul or get rough. If you do, you will hear that sharp whistle for a penalty kick, and that's tough. It's been very quiet for more than a year. I hear there's a war somewhere. There's been plenty of battles fought right here, and now they're off all over there. I've been invaded by all kinds of foes. From all over Europe they hailed, and from Brooklyn they started the siege of the hill, and they're sorry that they ever sailed. The Blues were not satisfied just to defend. Of courage they never did lack. As each fortnight to Brooklyn they train, and show them all the attack. There were Swedes, and some Czechs, and Germans galore, Norwegians, and Danes, and some Dutch, Hungarians and English, and Irish and Scots, some Welshmen, Spaniards, and such. The electrical workers understood use. White Plains many tunnels did bore. The Irish and Scots were mechanics, of course, but the weavers showed them how to score. I'm not surprised when of victories I hear, in the battles the Blues are in. They know how to defend and play to the end, and the final score shows they win. Today they're scattered all over the world, where the enemy runs. I saw them all learn to charge and to shoot with a ball, now it's a gun. I have my memory, so I'm not alone. I think the games and its thrills. My company are teachers who sit on the bleachers and gaze at the Florida hills. Someday when the war is all over, we play soccer football again, and we're proud of the fact that the boys who played here are all proving themselves as men.
Another one, another great poem.
While we're doing UPX, we're going to do some excerpts from what the guys are writing back home. Johnny Campbell, who we talked about earlier.
Soups?
Soup Campbell. He ran for mayor a couple of times here in Amsterdam, not successfully. Served as an alderman at one time, as did Pierce Tolson, actually. As did Mario Villa. He was in the Gilbert Islands. What the heck was the name of the island? It doesn't matter. So it's one of the first guys from here to actually get into a battle, and he's a lieutenant. And he goes ashore, and this Japanese officer is approaching him with a sword over his head, and he's assuming that the guy is surrendering. And as soon as the guy gets close to Campbell, he swipes him with a sword and stabs him in the foot before he's dispatched to the next life by the guy standing next to Campbell. So Campbell, who had been a top-notch soccer player, gets a sword right through his foot, and it wrecked his career. But he writes this one from February of '44. Hello, everyone. I just received the December issue of the PX, and once again, the old hometown and the club is pushed ahead of everything in my thoughts. We just had a parade, and the general awarded the outfit its combat recognition. It's a wonderful ceremony. Sometimes I wonder what all this is worth, the unhappiness and agony that people back home go through when their loved ones are a little less fortunate than the majority of us. And then we have something like a parade and the haze is cleared up. You see generals and colonels, etc., hobnobbing with the men, and a few slapping each other on the back and comparing this war to the last one. You see the democratic way that the higher-ranking men let their hair down and show the human side, not the official in charge attitude that predominates in the armies of other countries. Then you notice the soberness and the grief that shows on the faces of the men that recall a personality or little act that included a man that has been killed and is being cited posthumously. It will never bring him back, but it points out clearly that he is not dead as far as these men are concerned. He just can't make the next trip. I've watched them when I called them to attention while paying tribute to someone, and you realize we could never lose this war in a million years. Men, you folks could never come close to understanding the meaning of that word, because most of you never had the pleasure of seeing fellows like those that raised Cain in the club a year or two ago, who have grown older mentally a long time before their time due to existing circumstances. You won't know them when they get back.
You know, it's amazing when you read through all the letters they sent back, how concerned they are about the people back home who are suffering, and they say, you know, don't worry about me, I'm fine. I don't want you to, you know,
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
I'm fine. You know, I know it's tough back home. I know things are scarce. I know you're having a tough time. You know, they're not thinking at all about themselves.
Yeah, they're worried about the meat shortage back home.
Bullets whizzing by, and they're worried about somebody being afraid home.
November 1943, Arnie Eckelman in Washington State. All it does up here is rain. Can you imagine? You can't get liquor across the bar. No mixed drinks and the lousiest beer you ever tasted. From Davy Thompson. We've been expecting to move out, but something always comes up, and therefore orders are changed. You know, after spending damn near 3 years in the service, you have a craving for a little action. I can hardly wait until the day comes that we go for that long-awaited boat ride. From Pete Ruback in India. Being situated here in the middle of the jungle among wild animals that most people would have to go to the circus to see is really no joke. And getting news from good old Dutch Hill sure takes my mind off of things. And Christmas of 43, from Bill Slagus, somewhere in the Yukon Territory. I'm told the girls' dresses are getting shorter. They would get that way just as soon as the fellas go away. Yeah. Youth never changes.
Yeah.
You know? From G. Terry in New Guinea. I now live in the jungle somewhere in New Guinea. It isn't too bad here. The weather is very hot and the days are overcast. We have a little bit of rain now and then. We have a lot of natives around here. I was up in their village the other day and there was about 100 of them playing soccer. They don't have only one man in goal, they have 3. From Captain Jimmy Lindsay. We're setting up a nice island with a few good swimming beaches. From Paul Sykes. After 3.5 years in the States, they're sending me over. About time, eh? Now I'm going to take up where my brother left off. His brother was the pilot in the war. From Roger Ruback. Been seeing quite a bit of China lately as we are flying supplies
Over the hump.
regularly. The weather has been real hot these past few days, but still a flying suit feels damn good at 25,000 feet going over the hump. That's just what we were talking about. From Johnny Guide. After this war, the Nips will be the greatest cross-country runners in the world. They're already getting plenty of practice. From Johnny Campbell. I'm back with my men now. I played basketball tonight with the regimental officers team. We beat the Fighting 69th Officers team 51-25. The foot is okay to run around on, but I can't kick anything. My big toe on the right foot is stiff and useless, making it rather awkward. In time, it will loosen up, no doubt. It didn't. From Arnold Eckelman. I'm back in the battle zone again, just coming back from a bit of action which lasted about 6 days. Not much time for sleep there, averaging about 3 or 4 hours a day. You don't find a hell of a lot of spare time on a destroyer. From Milt Yates. Well, Blues, I'm somewhere in England at present. I've seen a few sites when they had the Blitz. Sorry I can't say just what I'd like to, but it seems the Nazis sure picked on the churches over here. It's hard to find one that has not been hit. From Joe Chinnick. Finally, my conscience has caught up with me, and there's no place to hide from it on a destroyer. In fact, no place to go. Just pace up and down the decks. I see that my brother has written to you. Do you remember him? He left for overseas duty around December 7th, 1941, and has never come back. It's going on 3 years that I haven't seen him, and it will probably be much longer. Just about everything I have to say is more or less confidential, but I think I can tell you that our ship, while in battle with the Japanese, has shot down 2 enemy aircraft and probably missed many more. I've got some souvenir pieces of Jap plane in our first engagement. As I sit here looking at the picture on the first page of the PX, which is a picture of the team, I can just vision those fellows who are pictured there, just wishing to get back into that uniform, where they can tell the referees off, and where the goal is only 100 yards down the field and not a couple of thousand. Love that. From Paul Sykes in New Guinea. I guess once an MPO is an MP. So with all my police experience, who knows, I may be a cop when I get back home. But I don't think so. The rug business is in my blood, so it looks like Mohawk will get my services. And incidentally, both firms are doing a swell job for the armed forces, and here's an incident to prove it. Of all things, I have 2 GI blankets, and I'm proud of them. Why? Why? Not because of their superior quality, because one has a Mohawk label and the other a Bigelow label. Oh, jeez.
Oh, somebody's calling.
This is WCSS. You're on the air. Hello? Hello, are you there? You want to talk to us? Yeah, I guess you gave up.
You waited too long.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, call back. Yeah.
We got time.
I got time. Yeah, I got a few minutes. Ah, a lot of minutes.
We got a lot of minutes.
From Johnny Campbell talking about Pierce Tolson's medals. Pierce will need a wheelbarrow to carry all those citations around if he gets any more. I had the pleasure of seeing a few Major League stars play baseball a while back. Pee Wee Reese, George Dickey, Johnny Mize, Johnny Lucadello, Bernie McCashey, Tom Winsett, and a few others. They are over here with the Navy and beat the hell out of an all-Army team made up of kids out of the different units. It seems that the Navy grabs all these pros and puts them in soft jobs to play sports. If they gave half of them guns, this war would be over a hell of a lot faster. Oops, excuse me, the Navy's our ally, isn't it? Jack Gibe seems to be seeing more than his share of this thing. I met Art Shanahan down here. He seemed to think that we were lucky in beating Bigglers out in the softball league. I asked him if the Hawaiian sun was sending him out of his head. They're still yakking about a softball game.
Yeah?
I asked, if this war lasts much longer, I'm going to get married. Almost an old man now. 24 next month. Everyone seems to be doing it, and who am I to steer away from the common trend? But then again, it means putting up with a woman after the war, which I would believe would make my life a continual battle. I'd better stay single, and then I'll have only the Japs to worry about. I hope Mrs. Campbell's not listening. We had a dinner for some wax one night, and let me tell you, I wish that I had stayed a GI. We can't even breathe in their direction. Unethical, they say. Times haven't changed.
They all got to talk.
I'm willing to forget ethics in this case, but quick. Can't be many more fellows left around town, can there? One of the fellows in my platoon, Sal Marone, a South Side boy, gets the recorder. And every night I've noticed a new list of potential Jap chasers. Send them over here. We'll get this over in no time. From George Shields. Saw Pierce Tolson over here in my travels. Pierce sure is a hero, in my estimation, after going through all he has. What with receiving all his medals. I've been around some myself, but not the hero he is, or John Soup Campbell. But nevertheless, doing my little part for the war effort, trucking supplies and men up in the forward areas. No stripes on my upper sleeve, but did not come in the service for that reason. had other reasons. And now I can prove those reasons and not doing too bad at it either, even though I'm not receiving any medals. I've been overseas close to 30 months. Know enough about Australia and New Guinea to write a book on. Have been thinking about taking out citizenship papers for one or the other. I've been over here so long, actually seems as though I've always been here. But of course, I'm only kidding, for I love my country just as any true American does. The Aussie girls are very nice and plenty friendly, and the hospitality of the Australian people is of the highest caliber. It sure will be a great day when this terrific ordeal is over. This is WCSS, you're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, fellas. Speaking of Veterans Day, I was just wondering if I could have a minute or two to regale you with some of my Air Force stories.
Sure.
I was in the Air Force in the early 70s, and my job was refueling fighter planes and transport aircraft. In 2 years, I lived in Aviano, Italy, which was probably the greatest time of my life, but that's another story. But this was back while the USSR was still functioning quite well, and in Aviano, we were only 10 minutes away from communist airspace. So one of my jobs was to take the fuel truck down, and they used to have what was called Tab V shelters, these big concrete revetments, and they were supposedly bomb-proof. But I would take the fuel truck, park in front, unreel the hose, and there would be an F-4 fighter in there with one nuclear weapon slung under his belly, and I'd hand a hose to a crew chief. It was as far as I could go with my clearance. He'd take the hose in, hook it up, and give me the sign, and we'd pump gas into that JP4. And when it was full, he'd give me the sign and hand me back the hose, and I'd stare at the nuclear weapon, and, you'd think, the thoughts that everybody thought during those days. And there was one other tale that during the 73 Israeli war, in Italy, we were refueling C-130 transport planes just nonstop, and the crew chiefs would get off, and we'd talk to them and say, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're taking blankets to Israel." We said, "Okay, that I bought that at the time." And after that was over, the conflict was over, we found out all those C-130s were loaded with arms and everything you could imagine that would blow other things up. But I salute all the veterans, and even though it wasn't dodging bullets, my 4 years in the Air Force was a good time. It matured me somewhat, and it's too bad that most young people today don't take advantage of, not necessarily joining places you have to fight, but the Air Force is a pretty good place to go to get straightened out on your feet. Happy Veterans Day, fellas, and I always enjoy talking to you.
Let me say on behalf of all my relatives in Italy, thank you for not blowing them up.
You're very welcome, and I don't think I'm welcome back in the country just yet, but someday.
Okay.
See you later. Bye-bye, fellas.
This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Good morning. I've been listening to your very brilliant and moving readings of yours and other people's. And I shared last year my mother's poem that she sat home writing on D-Day. And I wanted to mention something, too. Not only poetry with soldiers, but music. There was an interesting show on Forum 13 Sunday morning. There's a woman locally, Albany area, I think. There's a big project going to bring songwriters and soldiers together, and they are doing this magnificent work, and it's helping everybody. And they're going to have an event at the Linda coming up in Albany, and I just thought I'd tell you about that. Maybe you could look it up, but it's a wonderful idea. They're putting their experiences into song with real professional songwriters. It was a wonderful project.
Cool.
Yeah.
We can write songs, right, guys?
Well,
As long as we don't have to sing them, we can write them.
Oh, hey. These guys are a little rough. I'm an old song and dance man, but they don't.
Optimal on
Well, you
old.
could be putting some of that stuff to music.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thought I'd tell you about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah. We can do.
I used to think I could sing too when I was in high school. I joined the choir,
Yeah.
and the first day they kicked me out. She says, your voice will never make it. So I never sang in the choir.
We were in choir.
We were in the altar boy choir,
choir.
Gavin and I.
Yeah.
So,
Still know some of those things in Latin. Anyway. No, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be ours or not, but these letters just go on and on. Bruno Petruccione. I'm over in England. You know, he was in Iceland a minute ago.
Yep.
I'm over in England, not doing much of anything in particular. We're living in hotels, rate liberty every night. Beer and whiskey. Who said this is a tough war? However, it won't always be like this. I've managed to see some of the island. They certainly caught hell over here during the Blitz. Whole blocks of houses leveled. The countryside itself is beautiful, and the majority of the people are very friendly. And the girls aren't bad either. We get to play softball now and then. The rest of my off-duty hours are spent in pubs, the movies, or in the sack. From Jim Jasper. Jim Jasper used to be a regular caller on these talk shows. Since passed away. Seeing I am only a rookie amongst all you veterans, I do as a rookie is supposed to do, and that is to be seen and not heard. I do want to send my congratulations to both Lou Sykes and Pierce Tolson, and hope they are having a nice rest after their fine work. Lou, we are sort of trying to take over where you left off and deliver those bombs Hitler ordered. Of course, we accept no cancellation and stand there with our punch to punch his TS card. As for milk runs, they are few and the flack heavy, but the show must go on. Wow.
It's called the bombing rate for milk runs.
Eugene Lajeunesse, who was on the Helena when it sunk and then had to be rescued, and kind of a daring adventure. I was just a kid of 17 years when I signed up in the Navy. As far as that goes, I'm still just a kid, only 21 now.
4 years.
You probably all read the articles in the paper about it while I was home on survivor's leave. Although they gave me an entirely false build-up, my whereabouts was correct anyhow. But let me give it to you straight, fellows. I'm no hero. I just happened to be on a good ship, and she had a nose for trouble. Any lug who was and is as scared of this sea duty as much as I am and have been is certainly no hero. Mind you, I'm not a coward, but I am far from being brave, too. Now, my conscience is relieved. I dislike false impressions. And then this is me writing. When Mr. I'm No Hero gets a trip home after the sinking of the Helena, he has already earned 13 battle stars. Looking forward to having a good time tooling around in his car, he's startled to learn that furloughed soldiers and sailors are only allowed 5 gallons of gasoline under the rationing system then in place. He need not have worried. When the news of his predicament hits the papers, offers of extra gas come pouring in. He is a citizen of no mean city. and that's a story everywhere. The folks back home would do anything for a man in uniform. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey.
I've been listening, as others have, and to your poems, and I want to take this into a totally different direction here, a little bit more serious side. As far as when we, as a nation today, I think a lady brought it up in the first hour when I listened about having patriotism and you're looking at youth, and I think that a lot of them today are been indoctrinated by this idea that veterans and wars are not something that they really want to teach anymore, and they don't want to go and look in the history of wars and our veterans and the plight that they've endured over the years. And and I said this before, and I hope a lot of people try to take this because it's a serious problem. We have on average every 65 minutes a veteran commits suicide in the United States. Every 65 minutes. And we have to, as a nation, always have to look toward those men and women that put themselves out there to protect us as Americans. And over the years, I think we've slowly have forgotten a lot of what's happened in the past. And you guys have been, as far as poems and essays or whatever. It's the fact that a lot of people today miss that point where these men and women put themselves out there for us and for our nation. And with this kind of suicide rate today among our veterans, men and women, is a really, really sad number.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. And I think I'm not sure, but it's probably a little bit because they're not getting the right treatment when they came home, and when they come home now, they've got these problems.
Well, when you see these disgraceful figures about how long they have to wait to get help at the VA hospital, before we spend a dime on anybody else's health, every last cent that we should have available should be going to help.
They had the new director of the VA on 60 Minutes yesterday, and he said that they need something like 27,000 health care workers for the VA to put it to where it should be, and he said he's trying. He's going from VA hospital to VA hospital to recruit more people. Hopefully he gets the job done. This is the guy, I guess, was worked for Procter & Gamble and brought other products up to where they are, and that hopefully he'll be able to do the VA and get it straightened out.
Okay.
Actually, you hit it on the head when you said that before we spend another dime, actually should go to the veterans. Our country sends over billions and billions and billions of dollars across the pond for other countries, and we have American men and women coming home. And again, it goes back to the suicide rate among veterans. And these men and women should have availability for any health care that they need.
Immediately.
Physically, psychologically, whatever. And one of the most important things that I looked, and when I saw these figures and when I researched this out, that our United States should be giving jobs to the American veterans when they come home, so they have something to fall back on outside of their service to our nation and to us. I think the United States can do so much more for our American veterans right now, and it goes down to money, and apparently that money that they send over, billions of dollars, that couldn't be spent here in the United States helping our American veterans.
Amen. That's all I can say is amen.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for your call.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a great day.
This is WCSS. You're on the air. Oh, by the way, let me do a station break. This is WCSS, 1490 on your dial in Amsterdam, New York. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to, you asked who the speaker for the...
Yes.
Yes, his name is David Traskus. He's a retired colonel in the U.S. Army, and he's also a college professor at, I'm not sure where it is. It's in St. Rose or someplace in Albany, and he's going to be the speaker, but then he has to leave right away to go to work.
Yeah, well, those things happen.
And the two City of Amsterdam Awards are going to be presented to Richard Marnell, posthumously, and to Dave Gazzara. And Dave was in the Air Force, and he works currently at the Legion down at Post 701.
Okay. Very
so
good.
There might be others. I just want to tell you something on another short story, and this is sad. Yesterday I was up at the cemetery, St. John's Cemetery, and I go up there around Veterans Day where they make sure the weeds aren't too grown over. I have 3 uncles and a stepfather who were buried there. And my one uncle is way up in the corner. His name was John Adamowski, and he had a plaque have you seen the black and with the gold trim brass?
Yes.
Yeah, about a foot by 2 feet or whatever. Well, it's gone.
It's what?
Somebody took it?
Gone. Somebody dug it out, and it's gone.
Oh, my
imprint
God.
of where it was. So some lowlife went up and, I'm guessing, took it.
I would love to see the fence who takes that and pays somebody for the metal value of it. I would love to meet that guy.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I've called the church because St. Stanislaus is now caretaker over the cemetery, and they gave me a number to call if a person that runs the cemetery takes care of it. But I left the message. Anyway,
what a disgrace!
I mean, here's a guy that was in Germany. You know, my Uncle John.
Yeah, I know. We've got a couple of those brass plates in that same cemetery, and a third one about to be put in. Yeah.
Yeah, and other ones are still in the ground. I don't know what happened. I called my cousin.
You said this one was off in a corner someplace. Maybe they were.
Yeah, it was right up in the right corner near the wood line.
Yeah, see, that's it. They probably snuck it out that way.
At night, and the thing probably when you take it out is pretty heavy.
I would certainly think so.
You know, so
idiots.
Some low life.
I don't know how low a low life you'd have to be to do something like that. To steal a plaque from a veteran at a cemetery. Holy moly, that's about.
Yeah, I know. It's just especially at Veterans Day. You know, I called my cousin up, and she, that's her father. She almost started crying, you know. I mean, in a way, I'm sorry I called.
On the reason you went there, we were up there just a couple of days ago ourselves, and they do a nice job with that cemetery. I thought it was in pretty darn good shape.
Yeah, it is. It is. But Father Stan used to, was the overseer there, but he's got a lot on his plate lately, so I don't want to bother him. So
he's keeping busy.
Yeah. Thought I'd share those things with you.
That's an awful story, but thank you for sharing it.
I know. See you tomorrow, guys.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Anybody who knows anything about that, let the police know, please. And wow, I don't know what I would want to do to the person who did that. You know, do you? I guess
nothing worse.
Wow. Isn't that awful?
That's
Jeez.
Lower than low.
Fortunately, my father's is concrete or cement or whatever it is, so or granite or I don't know what it is. So nobody's going to steal that unless I want to make a curb out of it or something.
Don't take it for granted, Bob. It might be marble.
Yeah. Thanks, Gavin.
Right.
Anyway, this is WCSS. You're on the air.
Oh, I'd like to thank 701 for putting flags around the various cemeteries. You know, they really are very nice about that.
As I said, we were at actually two cemeteries the other day, and
were you?
And the wind was whipping, and the flags looked terrific. But one thing you notice as the years go by, there's more and more and more and more and more of them.
Are there really?
As the World War II generation passes away, it's amazing how many.
Because up here in Johnstown, I'm living up here now, and they don't have enough volunteers to put on.
You're kidding me.
There's got a lot of ratty flags, so you have to replace them. That's okay. Speaking of PSD, if that's the expression, my uncle was a medic during the war in the Navy, and at the end of the war, he was shipped back in the hold of a ship, and he had to take care of caged soldiers. He said they went crazy. He said it was just impossible to, control them. And the irony of it is, when he got back to San Francisco, he ended up in a hospital. So it must be very hard to take care of some of these people.
Oh, sure.
Oh, boy, I'll bet you.
Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't have, they didn't have the pills back then. I wonder.
No, that's true too. That's right.
I wonder whatever happened to all those people.
I had a guy try to tell me that PTSD can't be real. Otherwise, there would have been a mess of them from World War II and the Civil War, etc.
Well,
yeah, there were. Guess what?
There are.
You just don't see them.
Yeah.
Well,
Some of them have been in veterans hospitals since the war.
Really?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that quote you had that you're reading from some book or something like that, wasn't that shocking? That's what the kids had to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were on the front lines continuously, getting shelled continuously. It rained for like a full month in Okinawa, a month straight, and they're living in these foxholes. They're not able to change their socks. If they got to take a crap, they take it right in the hole they're in. They don't dare lift their heads up. And there's dead bodies all around them.
God.
There was one place where they were digging into the digging their foxholes, and they come across the dead Japanese from the week before.
Oh my God!
Buried where they're digging, and with the maggots crawling all over. It's just one horrible thing after another. And then you just go home and say, "Hey, what's new, Susie?" Yeah.
Who did you quote anyway? That
was E.B. Sledge, I think his name is.
Sledge?
With the old breed. It's a memoir of World War II. That's really been acknowledged as one of the really truly great pieces of writing to come out of World War II.
Would you repeat that title again?
Oh, okay. Well, I got to find it here. It's I believe it's called With the Old Breed.
Okay. See if I can find it.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anything written like that. Hemingway is nothing.
I came across this. I think I was at a library book sale. I said, "Well, this is interesting. I got to write about Okinawa," so I picked it up, and it's really one of the best books I ever read. Let's see. Here we go. With the Old Breed. Yeah, I got it right. With the Old Breed by E.B. Sledge. E.B. Sledge. He ended up being like he was like a scientist after the war. He was a professor at some college.
But he had been a grunt. He
was a private. He was a private.
Oh, that was from experience.
Oh, yeah. This is personal experience.
I mean you say he dreamed of the dead men getting up out of the...
Yeah.
Wasn't that horrible? Good God.
Yeah, and he didn't know whether it was a dream or not. That's how...
Oh.
That's how much on the edge of reality these guys were.
Oh, my God.
And he was not one of the guys who got treated for psychoneurotic symptoms either. So these were the guys who survived. The other guys, he talks about some of them just having enough, and they would just stand up and just start charging on their own when they knew they couldn't last 2 seconds, but they just couldn't take it anymore.
Oh. I don't know about your parents, but it seemed like there was an awful lot of drinking. Our parents used to drink an awful lot when they came back. Is it possible
I think
maybe they were just trying to...
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what it was.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
You better believe it. Yep.
Oh,
No, you're right.
you.
That's a good observation, because I think an awful lot of that generation...
Self-medication?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, God, I hate it when it does that. We got to figure out how to stop that.
I don't know.
Hit the right button.
Hit the right button. Or hit it right.
Hit the right sequence.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Yeah, good point. Well, good point. Well, this is all terribly sad stuff. Let's have some good stories left here. Don't we? No, we don't. Here's from my book. This is late in the book. It's in the chapter called Homecoming. In the spring of 1945 and again in 1946, members of the Student Council at Wilbur H. Lynch Senior High School plant trees on the school grounds, each a memorial to a graduate of Amsterdam's high school who died in the service of his country in World War II. They cover the hillside in front of the school and all the way up Brant Place and around the tennis courts. A forest grows up on the west side of the football field, and still more trees along the east driveway. There are 88 of them. Photographs appear in the paper of individual families with their tree, and Memorial Day in 1946 marks the formal dedication of the living memorial. Each family receives a chart showing the exact location of each tree. Alan Palekis, who's on the cover of my book, gets number 65, the third from the end as Brant Place approaches Lindbergh Avenue. Bunn Street Extension does not yet exist. Almost to the east tennis court. Over the years, the trees grow tall and full, but gradually their purpose is forgotten. Expansions, reconstructions, maybe even traffic safety factors come into play. The trees begin to disappear. No one even notices. Not many more than a dozen still exist. On the side where once stood a tree dedicated to the Silver Star hero of Iwo Jima, there are none at all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame you, Gavin, for that, even though you're on the school board. And I think that's exactly what happened. You just, after a while,
Everybody forgets what.
everybody forgets why the tree is there, and we need to
All they know
make
is
room for this building
know
or
is
that
there's a
parking
tree.
lot, and
Make the road a little bit wider. And
yeah.
They just know there's a tree there. They don't know why or what for.
Children of the fighters soon forget.
Yeah.
What?
The children of the fighters soon forget.
Yeah. 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 And we don't even remember. We weren't there. Yeah.
No, but a lot of us, you do know, though. Even though
Yeah,
you
we
weren't
know.
there.
We know our fathers were there.
We know.
We know that. Yeah, I was, I was going to cue up that great opening address of General Patton in the movie. Then I realized I can't play this, get away with it.
Why is that, Bob?
Well, the language is a little
Salty?
little salty. But
But you can do that if you're quoting somebody.
yeah, maybe I don't. No, we're not going to try that.
We're on the razor's
But
edge
but
anyway.
the whole 30 years from now, when you got your grandson bouncing on your knee and he says to you, "What did you do in the Great World War II, Grandpa?" You're not going to have to tell him. Well, I can't even repeat that. But you know what I'm saying. I don't know when I first got interested in it. Of course, we kind of grew up at the American Legion because my grandmother was always involved. We went to all the parties there, the kids' parties and stuff. And you, same thing with you, yeah. But I do remember asking my father, and he would tell us. Of course he didn't do anything particularly exciting in and of itself because he was a clerk. He was blind as a bat. I mean, if they'd given him a gun, the Lord only knows what he would have shot or who. But the chances are slim it would be somebody on the other side. But he took care of the inventory for the Navy, and he was stationed in Cherbourg, and the ships would come in with all these supplies that ultimately get sent to the front, and he was kind of responsible for that. So, I mean, did his job, did his duty.
I think my dad said he was signaling on the USS Champlain. And the only thing he ever said was that we set the speed record getting back from Italy with troops at the end of the World War II. That was it. That was the fastest transatlantic crossing ever. And
they got to go on their own ship?
Yeah, he got his own ship. But that was it. That was his big tale, and he wouldn't talk about anything else. I don't know if there's anything else, but
I heard things like my father went over and back on the Queen Mary, and there was places where they would actually let them jump off the ship and swim for a while, and then haul them back in, and poker games and crap games and things like that. But for a guy in the Navy, that was the only ship he was ever on. It was a Queen Mary. He was strictly a land-based guy. He was in Scotland and loved Scotland. Probably ran into some of your relatives.
probably.
But come D-Day, he was over 2 weeks later when things were still pretty hairy.
They were hot.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as Cherbourg was captured, he was there. And he was there when Charles de Gaulle came to France for the first time since the beginning of the war. And de Gaulle gives this big speech from the balcony of City Hall in Cherbourg, and my father was in the audience, and he knew enough French to really appreciate. De Gaulle was one of those. The Allies hated him, but he was one of those larger-than-life guys. I mean, he was a big guy. On top of being 6'4", he was, he understood a dramatic moment, and was as good an actor as ever held a presidential office. His speech at Cherbourg was just preliminary to the one he gave like a week later when he liberated Paris. He was ahead of the troops, and they're sniping at it. There are German snipers around, and de Gaulle doesn't care. He's walking fully erect in the public square while the bullets are flying all around him, and he doesn't even flinch. So he saw part of that, and he saw the Christmas Eve, 1944. The troop ship Leopoldville sank in the English Channel just off of Cherbourg, and it was a horrible incident. It was manned by a Belgian crew of civilians, and they got hit by a German submarine, and there was a destroyer nearby, but the destroyer never got the word that they were in trouble, and they went off to find the submarine, and meanwhile the ship was sinking. And the Belgian crew took the lifeboats and took off. They just left all the American soldiers aboard the ship.
Wow.
And so these guys who know nothing about the ship are trying to get the remaining lifeboats in the water, and they can't figure out how to do it, and the ropes get all tangled, and they end up nearly all of them were killed. And because it's Christmas Eve, and those that jumped in the water didn't last long before they were frozen stiff. Yeah. Ed Bablin, who was from Amsterdam, he was charged with pulling the bodies out of the water. And my father was in Cherbourg, and he and Ed were talking about this one day in the back living room at the house, and talking about how the bodies were just floating into the harbor, and they would pile them up on the docks, stack them up one on top of the other, and the few survivors, they'd wrap in blankets and try to warm them up, but the horror of it remained with him forever. And he was just watching, but there were hundreds, a couple of thousand, I think, killed on the ship.
Yeah.
And it was kept a big secret till the 1960s sometime. The true story.
Well, they kept pretty hush hush the rehearsal disaster for D-Day as well.
Yeah. Well, you can understand.
Yeah.
That they would have to for a time, but that stayed hush hush for a long time.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Well, it's embarrassing. There are almost as many killed in the rehearsal as there were on some of the beaches. Jeepers. But that's war. War sucks, as one of my reviewers said. Yeah.
That's why you have to appreciate peace when you have it.
Hey, here's one from Gabe Sentai. We were speaking of Tony earlier. This is his father. The place I am now in is okay if you can speak Spanish and like the way Mexico looks. I guess he was in New Mexico, I forget. For this place is just like Mexico. Everything you read about in a Western story, flat land, sand, cactus plants, big cowboy boots. That's all they wear for shoes down here. Even a few soldiers wear them. The reason I'm down here is to go to gunnery school. They're going to try and make a gunner out of me. So far I'm doing okay, except for the pressure test. I didn't pass that because of a cold, but we'll still get another chance. Sunday I went up for the first time. I flew in the nose of a B-24. I was scared at first to look down and see that beautiful land below me. Even Texas looks nice from up there. Oh, okay, it's Texas, not New Mexico. All right. But after a while, I began to enjoy it. We only went up 5,000 or 6,000 feet, but that was high enough for me. Thanks again for everything, the ex-bartender of Lion Street Grill, Gabe. Arnie Eckelman, I know I should have answered sooner, but then you'll have to excuse me because that was the first mail in 40 days, and I had a lot of sugar reports to answer from the future Mrs. Eckelman.
Yeah.
The only news I can pass out is that I am somewhere in the Pacific, but as usual, you know I'm in a hot action. Would like to tell you where, but you'll have to guess that. Jeez. Oh, wow.
Yeah, you write the wrong thing, your letter gets censored, and they don't know anything.
Harry de Graaf in France. You all know by this date that Jerry meaning the Germans, has been protesting quite furiously lately in regard to the invasion of his homeland. This in turn keeps everyone quite busy when it comes to holding that line. However, the backs are holding up well, and the Jerry goalie can expect to have his hands full with shots from all directions. This is, of course, a soccer reference.
Right.
Yeah.
These guys are very clever about what they're seeing and what they're doing and how they're wording this so it's okay.
Yeah. Everything's cool.
There's
Met
this.
Johnny Hanna recently, and although we only had time for a 5-minute chat, it was a pleasure to meet someone from home. I had Johnny to thank for this meeting, as he knew I was coming by and was watching for me. Witnessed some of those head-shaving episodes recently in which women collaborators are the victims, and the immediate public gets quite a kick out of it. Yeah, this was after France was liberated. The women who had been dating the German soldiers were all dragged out into their local village square and their heads shaved. They're lucky that's all that happened.
I'm sure that's not all that happened.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, it's probably not all that happened. How about the Mud Bowl? This is good. Disorganized football. This is from Sam Sweet reporting to the soccer club. In a field that lived up to its name as Mud Bowl, the two teams wallowed through 4 quarters of clean, hard football. This is in Italy, I believe. Though the plays were not of college caliber and the blocking was a little off, both outfits showed effects of having played the game before. With little time to prepare, the men, fresh from the front lines, put on a show few will forget. There were Red Cross girls as cheerleaders and the division band to add to the color. The little field marked out between 2 farm lots took on the aspects of a big-time game. Wow.
Hey,
They just tried to make a little bit of home wherever they were. This is on the front lines of Italy.
I have to take a moment and wish my wife a happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday,
So
Marie.
I don't get
Happy birthday, Marie.
in Dutch when I get home, and we took her out to dinner yesterday. Went up to the new Top Notch for dinner, and had a nice time up there. So, happy birthday, honey.
All right.
See, I did my
Very nice.
husbandly
Very
duty,
nice.
and I'm all
There you
set.
go. There you go.
I'm off the hook.
You think you're off the hook?
Yeah, you think
I'm
so?
counting on it.
No, yeah. Don't
Yeah,
count
no,
on
no,
it.
Is the day over yet? Don't you have one of those we have to give a present every hour situations?
No, she hasn't heard about that, Bob, and I don't think she will. will she?
That's common in America, particularly in upstate New York.
Well, fortunately, she
You didn't
hasn't.
tell her about that.
No, I certainly have not, Bob. Well, it's always good for a man to keep a few things close to his heart in secret. But we hope it's no secret that tomorrow is Veterans Day,
Yes.
and that everybody come out and attend the parade and the ceremony in support of our veterans. Because without them, we couldn't do what we do. We wouldn't have what we have.
And don't blame the veterans for the show with no name, Gavin. We are what we are. We do what we do. And
I think a lot of people appreciate it.
What they did.
We can't do. Can't compete.
Nope. So thank you. If you thank every veteran you see, and if you don't see any, find one. All right.
Absolutely.
And we're so proud of Diego for his service in the Marine Reserves, and now coming to
One
an
more. Time for one more.
You think we got time for
we
one?
got time for one.
Yeah?
Quick one.
Yeah.
Is it ours?
Yeah.
This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. I do appreciate the show you've been doing this morning.
Thank you.
I think that it would not be terribly difficult for you to be able to write a sequel and it would be, "We Still Have Such Men."
Oh, well, whatever the title is, actually, the title of the next book was going to be, if I did a sequel, was Thank God Such Men Were Born, or something like that, from a General Patton quote.
I'm not necessarily referring to the World War II.
I understand.
We have young men that are truly capable of all of the
feats of their grandfathers. You better believe it.
For lack of better words,
Yep.
And they have shown it. I know personally
Yep.
2 men that have had 4 tours
Yep.
in Iraq and
Yep.
Afghanistan. They are truly patriotic. They realize what they're there for, and as I say, we still have such men.
Yes, absolutely.
We're thankful for them.
And thank you for bringing that up. I agree with you 100%. Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you. And that does it for today. This has been the Show with No Name on WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York, and we'll be back on Wednesday at 11 o'clock.